It's the All Things Strange podcast. We are your hosts, Agent Anderson,
Agent Ether,
and Agent Red.
Come along as we examine UFO sightings, conspiracies, and all things strange. You can find all of our wonderful links in the description on the Linktree, where you can find our Discord, our merchandise, our
Discord,
Patreon,
and
I already
more.
did Discord, and more. This week's episode, Friday Night Power Hour.
Because we don't have anything better to do on a Friday night.
Now we're a bunch of big nerds.
Nerds.
For sure.
Got nothing to do besides talk about strange stuff. Tonight, I think we're going to be talking mostly about cryptids, but I have a couple of other topics, basically strange news. Before we get started, though, we've got 2 tiers of Patreon for you. The first tier is $3, and that will get you everything from bonus episodes to after hours, early access, and that's pretty much it for that one. And the second tier will get you the ability to vote on upcoming topics. This one was sort of an impromptu thing. This is not a regularly scheduled episode. Right now, they're voting on, Project Blue Book,
Mm-hmm.
and I think the Langenfield incident, something in Canada in 1974, where a farmer saw saucers land near his farm. So those are the 2 topics they're voting on next time. All right, well, without any further ado, I guess, let's get started. We have cryptids, and strange news. Usually I do strange news as bonus episodes, but I found a couple of really cool things I wanted to talk about in this power hour. I guess we'll just sort of switch off. Who wants to go first?
Go, Agent Red.
Agent Red, you want to go first?
Agent Red. Okay, so I guess I'll go first. Speaking of cryptids, so something we have over in my part of the woods, North Kakalaki, is the Beast of Bladenborough.
Nice.
And the Beast of Bladenborough is a cryptid that's been celebrated or feared since the 1950s. Some people believe it was a bobcat. Some people believe it was a manged dog. But basically, they had this bout of this beast come into town and basically decapitate and crush the skulls of chickens and other small animals. And ever since then, the town's basically gotten together to hunt the beast and talk about the beast, and they have a festival every year. And I haven't gotten to go yet, but I would really like to go. It sounds super fun. But some people believe that it was a bobcat because one was actually caught a few years later. And then other people believe that it was this big dog that belonged to a local Native American, but nobody's ever actually proven or disproven what the beast was to begin with.
Nice. So I don't know, bobcats don't generally crush skulls.
No, see, that's the thing that makes you think, okay, well, then maybe a dog, but why would anybody confuse a dog for some mythical creature?
Yeah, that's weird. So what was the description of the creature? So there were witnesses who actually saw it, right?
There were witnesses who claimed that they saw something that looked similar to a wild dog or a wild cat, but nobody actually could specify exactly what it was that they saw. Just that it was dark and in the outskirts of town, the little farm towns. But that it would, kill chickens and local small wildlife. And yeah, I don't know. It was just this really weird thing that showed up, and some people claim that the whole thing was made up and it was just publicity for a small town. But why would a small town want publicity if they're just a bunch of farmers,
I know, right? Maybe a tourist thing. Who knows? Well, they do have a festival for it. There's a lot
They
of
do
really
have a festival.
Yeah, there's a lot of really cool stuff like that on the East Coast. They have the one I want to go to the most is the Mothman Festival, which is in West Virginia, if I remember correctly. A lot of weird stuff in West Virginia.
So you're over in North Carolina, and do you know what they do during the festival? Do they dress up? Do they bring their pets?
So some people dress up and they have food and music, and it's actually a 2-day festival. So it's a really big thing for people around here.
Nice. And how far is that from you? Not that far?
Now it's like maybe like an hour and a half from me. Not
There
far
is-
at all.
you
There
should
is
totally
no
go.
excuse. You must go. Do you know what time of year it happens?
It's in October.
October. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
A little bit of a wait
Yep.
for that.
A little
Oh,
bit of
man.
a wait, but
You
I
have to
think we're
go.
definitely going to try and go this year.
We don't have anything like that here. We just have wineries.
Just wine. I mean, if you drink enough wine, you might see a cryptid.
Yeah, that's true. I saw a quote unquote cryptid a couple weeks ago. We were on a walk and we saw these. I brought a flashlight because sometimes it's pretty dark out. And there's part of our walk. We walk by an empty field, and I was shining the flashlight in the empty field just for fun. And I saw these two eyes reflecting back at me. It's pretty
Nice.
creepy. Probably a deer, but still.
Still creepy.
At night, it looks pretty creepy.
Was this you in Agent Redacted?
Yeah, we went on a walk. They're usually there at night. If you go there with the flashlight, you can usually see the eyeballs reflecting back at you.
Nice.
All right. Is that what you got for that one?
That's what I got for the Beast of Bladenborough.
All right. I'll go next with a real brief one. I might want to do something a little more involved, maybe like a mini episode on this, but I just saw this morning when I was reading my coffee, when I was drinking my coffee, and I don't know much about it. I have never heard of this before. It's pretty recent from what I can tell, but this is from the Brighter Side News, or the Brighter Side .news. Archaeologists discover 9,000-year-old Stonehenge-like structure in Lake Michigan. Dubbed by some as Michigan's Stonehenge, this discovery is sparking intrigue and reshaping perspectives on the region's distant past. So this would be a couple thousand years, like 3,000 years older than Stonehenge. And it's there. It's at the bottom of the lake, and it might be, 4,000. Predates Stonehenge by 4,000 years. And it follows the end of the Ice Age and the formation of the Grand Traverse Bay, when the lake bed had not yet been submerged, it says in the article. So that's really cool. It kind of rewrites what we think history is. There shouldn't have been anybody. I mean, I can show you a picture of this because, it's, I don't know if I can show it to you on like any kind of live stream, but let's see if I can click on that picture. Maybe turn it this way.
How did they take this image?
Submersibles.
Submarine
Yeah, like a drone or something.
photos.
But like you can see it maybe there. Let me hold it up a little better. Maybe not.
Oh, look at that.
I don't know if you can how well you can see that, but there's a structure with, looks like posts and maybe some kind of bridge-like structure in the back. They weren't supposed to be sophisticated enough 9,000 years ago to build something that, I guess I could send you I guess I can send this to the group chat.
This is a group chat. I want to see this structure too. Because I assumed it was just like a sonar ping or, something. Oh, wow. That is
pictures.
Really interesting. Would you look at that? Okay, I'll have to post something on our Facebook group.
Yeah.
So you guys can actually see what we're looking at. But it's definitely a man-made structure.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, for sure. There's no question that this isn't man-made. That's super fascinating. You can see columns, something that looks like a bridge. Does it say how big it is?
No, I didn't really read through the article that much. I skimmed it, but I didn't really have much chance. Maybe I'll do this week's bonus episode on this. And
it does
here it
look
is.
very similar to Stonehenge.
It says it's 4 feet tall and 5 feet wide, a carving of a mastodon.
Right.
That's so interesting.
Yeah, it's really cool. And I don't know, I'd have to double check. I'm not like a historian or anything, but I don't think we were supposed to have stoneworking capabilities in North America 9,000 years ago. They were supposed to, just like the Göbekli Tepe episode, they were supposed to be hunters and gatherers, if they were even here at all. I don't know. I'd have to check what the established timeline is for that. But this looks like something that's way more sophisticated than what would be produced by hunters and gatherers, which means that we had a more sophisticated society. You'd have to have a social structure. Somebody would have to be the boss. There would have to be an economy so you could pay the workers. It wouldn't just be like a food-based, okay, let's go kill something and then cook it and distribute it to all the people. You'd have to have farming so that you could farm enough food that not everybody needs to spend all day getting food. So you have people with extra time on their hands, basically, that don't need to spend their whole day producing or hunting food. So this means there's probably a lot more sophisticated of culture back then in North America, which we've speculated on in the past. And there was an ice age, I think it was 12,000 years ago, where there's, like glaciers basically covered all of North America and they moved across the land. And that would have been like a giant grinder that would have erased anything that was there before that, just gone. Maybe. I don't know. That's my understanding of it. But yeah, it'd be a lot of fun to do an episode on this.
Other structures, actually, because the article I was skimming through it said that they found nothing as old, but similar structures to Stonehenge that predate Stonehenge that are kind of changing.
There are other structures that are like Stonehenge that are in other parts of the world that they're still discovering. So I think it would definitely make a good episode.
Yeah, and they have all sorts of neat tools. They have like muon scanning where they're able to scan stuff. I think it's muon. I don't know. It's something where they can scan under the ground or under trees and stuff.
Didn't we do an episode on the pyramids and that's how they scan through the pyramids and stuff?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So they're
like
finding
LiDAR
stuff. And they're having like AI is looking at pictures and able to decipher things that people aren't necessarily able to see with the naked eye. Like they found some new petroglyphs in what's that deserty place?
Wow, could you be more specific?
With the big giant petroglyphs that you can only see from the air.
Oh, I know what you're talking
about.
There is one that they call an astronaut because it looks like it's got like a helmet on. What is it? Why is my mind going blank? We've talked about this a million times.
Isn't it in Central America? Then?
Off the show. What is it? Anyways, if you've heard about it, we did an episode on it. If you've heard about it, you know what I'm talking about. But they've been able to find new petroglyphs or geoglyphs. I don't know what they call them. But they've been able to find new ones through AI that people hadn't recognized before because they're really faint. But it's weird because you can't see them from the ground. You can only see them when you're really high up in the air. They're so big. But now it's going to bother me.
What would be the point in only seeing things from up in the air unless there were things up in the air?
Yeah, exactly. That's the idea. Why would they make them so big if they, and who knows? We don't have, that one's fun that's a speculative one where we don't have any answers. It's just fun to kind of say, what if? Were there aliens visiting and that's who was in the air? Did they invent some sort of primitive like hot air balloon and that's how they saw? I don't know. Who knows? There's, all sorts of fun discussions for that one. All right, so that was my first one. Agent Ether, would you like to toss something at us with a cryptid flavor here?
I do. I want to talk about a couple of new and rare cryptids that we haven't mentioned before.
Okay.
They're also new to me, and I really had to do some digging with something called a kykeon.
Okay.
And it's really interesting because at first, when I was looking around, you know how it is when you're looking for your source material.
Right.
And all these websites were quoting one another.
Yep, I've run into that many times.
And I'm like, where is the original source material? So it was very frustrating to me because there was also a video game that came out that referenced the kykeon. And it was one of the only places I could find it. And I was like, this better not be something from a video game. I'm going to be so pissed if I've been doing all this research and these quotes are from a video game.
Yeah.
But I found two things. I found a Finnish Wikipedia site that was translated into English that referenced the cryptid. And using the Wayback Machine, I was able to find the source material.
Oh, nice. I love the Wayback Machine.
Love it, right? So the kykeon is a mythical creature. It's a flying cryptid from West African folklore. It resembles a giant owl over 5 feet long with a large beak and claws, but it has some ape-like features as well, including a long, muscular legs, and it uses like this sharp shoulder joint as a weapon, and it's supposed to have a distinct and strong odor. Some people say it has short, greenish-gray fur and a tail, and it's supposed to bring misfortune to those who see or hear it. Let's see. Kykeon actually means owl in the local language. So this was the Finnish Wikipedia website. Very brief, one paragraph, not much information there. But I was like, okay, so this is a cryptid. It has some origin, and I kept looking, and I went to the Wayback Machine, and the site where I found most of my information was africandreaming.co.uk. It was way back in 2004 when this web page was created. And the person who created it says in his autobiography that he was born and grew up in a village on the banks of the Casamance River in southern Senegal, which is where the cryptid originates, just south of the Gambia River. And he says that, he grew up in nature. He would spend hours in the jungles with the various animals and insects, and they'd always filled him with a great sense of mystery which never departed. Now, he actually would leave for school in England, and he would come back later to study and catalog creatures of the forest. He would talk to the locals and listen to their stories about the animals and cryptids within the forest. So this person who he isn't named on his website, he doesn't offer his name, although there is contact information. But again, it's from 2004, which is 20 years ago. So I tried to email him and it kicked back. The email address is no longer being valid, which is unfortunate. But he described the Kikian as terrible and terrifying creatures. Locals also call it a soul cannibal. And it's one of the least seen forest creatures. He said its very name conjures a look of horror among the locals. So when he's trying to talk to them, it's an owl, especially in its head. It has a huge beak and raking talons on its arms and feet, and it's almost a mixture of a bird and human. So the Finnish site said bird and ape. He describes it as a mixture of a bird and a human. The Bambara people say it has a huge pair of feathered wings which grow from its back, and the shoulder joint is tipped with a sharp spur, a deadly weapon if its talons fail. So it sounds like it's a very aggressive animal.
Well-armed.
Well-armed and aggressive. It's covered in short greenish-gray hair, and the smell resembles that of a dead snake that has lain in the sun too long.
Yeah.
Very descriptive.
What does that smell like?
I don't know. The call of the Kikian, it actually has several calls, but the most common one is a deep-throated grunting, which carries for miles across the savannas.
Oh, wait, let's try to imagine what that would sound like. I think it'd sound like, bleh, bleh, bleh.
Only super frightening. Apparently the sound is loud and so terrifying that the locals, they're not going to go looking for it, right? So if you're like, tell me what this thing looks like, locals don't even want to talk about it.
Right. Well, let's say you're just trying to get to sleep at night and you hear some kind of grunting like that. That's not good.
Other calls include a strangling cry from deep in the throat, and then a screaming moan. That sounds very unpleasant. So you're laying in your...
Foreboding.
Yeah, you're laying down to go to sleep at night and you're hearing all these sounds. I can't even imagine.
Yeah, that's not fun.
So the Kikian lives in the darkest regions of the forest, and it rarely ventures outside of them. And it likes to ambush travelers who are trying to get home before darkness falls. It's heard before it's seen, and those who see it and live die of lingering illnesses or shock. It's a deadly adversary, outrunning a man or swooping down on its prey. It can move between the physical and dream realms with ease. And that's actually a common theme in African folklore, is to have something that passes between the physical and the dream realms.
Interesting. I wonder how far back that goes, and I wonder if any of our Western movies that are based around that theme are based on that sort of folklore.
I don't know.
Like Inception or Dreamscape or one of these type of,
Well, that's interesting you mentioned dreams, because some people say they'll dream of the Kikian and it appears to chase them, but fails to catch them. And That's interesting to me too. Can you imagine dreaming? Like, it's not just enough to like live out here. I'm going to be dreaming of this thing too.
Yeah. Some Freddy Krueger nonsense right there.
So the Kikyan was in a video game, The Secret Saturdays, Beast of the Fifth Sun. It also appears in Far Cry 2, which is a video game from 2008. And it was inspired by these African myths, but the portrayal in the game is fictionalized. And it appears more exaggerated or fantastical of a version compared to the original folklore.
Wait. How could you possibly exaggerate the that already? I mean, the original folklore is already like really wild.
So I didn't play the game and I couldn't find the game. I did find someone giving a tutorial of a walkthrough of the game.
Which game?
Of the Far Cry 2.
Oh, that's I got that on Game Pass.
Do you really?
Yeah.
From 2008?
I've never played it, but it's probably on Game Pass. I don't know.
Oh, you got to go and look for the Kikyan now.
Yeah, I've never played that game. It's an older game, but it was pretty popular. Let me see. Far Cry 2. Let's see what platforms this is on.
You look for that, and I'll just finish up. In African folklore, owls are often viewed as mysterious and powerful creatures. They hold a lot of symbolic and spiritual meaning. They're messengers of the supernatural, and they symbolize wisdom, death, and spiritual power. And different African cultures have distinct interpretations of owls, but there are some recurring themes across the continent. But again, the Kikyan is really only found in specific areas of Africa. It's a very small cryptid. So are you looking for the game?
It looks like Far Cry 6 is on Game Pass or coming to Game Pass. And then I think the one on Game Pass might have been Far Cry 4. I know I saw one of them on Game Pass at some point. So 2 does not look like it's currently on Game Pass. But I found it on Steam for $10. So if you guys want to play it, it's
You found Far Cry 2 on Steam?
Yeah. Steam's like a video game platform. Oh, Good Old Games. Here we go. It's on Good Old Games. Do Good Old Games. Steam is not as good. I like Good Old Games better. Mature content. Get out of here. Yeah, it's $9.99 on Good Old Games.
So if you want to see a Kikyan and experience that firsthand, you can go ahead and download Far Cry 2.
Yeah. All right. Is that what you had for the Kikyan?
I do. I have another one, but
okay, we'll switch off.
We'll switch
and
off.
Stuff. Did you have any other cryptids for us, Agent Red?
So, not a cryptid per se, but an animal that once was thought to be a cryptid, which is the Saola in Vietnam.
Okay.
And basically, it's kind of a mix between like cattle and antelope.
Mm-hmm.
And for a long time, people would claim that basically it was a mammal with gills. And what they found out, because they did discover this animal in the late 90s, is that it's not gills, but they do have like mammally glands that look very similar. It looks almost like multiple flaps of skin. But it's a really cool animal that looks kind of like a cross between like a zebra and a deer. And it's really neat. And it kind of makes you wonder like how many animals out there that are cryptids aren't actually cryptids. We just don't know enough about them, or they're close to extinction to where they could one day be considered folklore, but they actually do, or at one time did exist.
Yeah, and I've seen there's so many people reporting things that can't all be made up, and we're discovering new species all the time. So I agree entirely. There's probably stuff out there that we haven't discovered yet.
Well, I remember the first time I heard of a narwhal.
Yeah, those sound totally made up.
Yeah, you're like,
right?
Yeah.
A sea unicorn.
Unicorn whales. I mean, it sounds ridiculous, but they're out there. They're true. Or the duckbill platypus also sounds completely made up. But, they're real. Are they extinct?
The platypus?
Yeah.
No.
They're not extinct? Okay,
No.
Must be thinking of something else. Well, they are an abomination of nature, that's for sure.
And
They
then
are amazing.
there's other cryptids where they'll say, well, this is not a cryptid, it's actually this animal, and there's no resemblance between the two. Like, it's almost like they're trying to find a way to dismiss things that are cryptids.
Right.
I mean, in all fairness, I have always had this theory that Bigfoot is actually just other types of gorillas in other parts of the world. That it's not necessarily a missing link, but it's the fact that we don't recognize that there are probably gorilla species in other parts of the world.
Right. Yeah, that's very possible, I think. A lot of areas that Bigfoot is sighted are very, very remote, just miles and miles of wilderness where you could get lost easily. Or they're seen, in downtown LA. Who knows? Maybe they escaped from the jungle, from the zoo. I mean,
Yeah.
into the jungle.
The jungle of LA.
Yes, the
concrete jungle.
Concrete jungle.
All right. I guess I'll go next with another one. I saw this article and I thought I'd mention it. There's not much to it other than, what it is. 200 years ago, the sun mysteriously turned blue. Scientists finally know why, from popularmechanic.com. This is definitely a clickbait kind of a title, but it's still pretty cool. So back in 1831, there was a volcanic eruption that spewed a bunch of gases into the atmosphere, and it also cooled the Earth's atmosphere by 1 degree Celsius. Because of all the gases in the atmosphere, the sun, in some areas, if there were gases above you, I'm assuming, the sun turned blue and purple. So just imagine waking up and then looking up at the sun, and the sun is blue, and I imagine everything would have a blue kind of shade to it. So I thought that was pretty cool. I'd never heard of that one before, and that's all there really is to that one.
That is really neat. That would kind of freak me out if I looked up and it was blue.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Nothing too crazy, but it's a pretty cool story I saw on the news a couple days ago. Agent Ether?
I have another cryptid.
Okay, should I do another one since that was so short?
That was pretty short. Why don't you do one
Okay,
more?
I'll do another one. All right, so Space Force's secretive X-37B spaceplane soars past 1 year in orbit. This one is just, it's nothing too crazy, but it caught my attention because the article said that the X-37B is performing aerobrake maneuvers, and probably other maneuvers too, who knows. Now, I had a sighting when we were in 2020, when we went to look at the Neowise comet. We were outside looking up and I saw what appeared to be a satellite, but normally a satellite, it'll move and then it'll fade away and it's gone. This one was going from horizon to horizon and it didn't fade away, and it was moving in like a small sine wave pattern. It looked like it was wiggling. And when it was, overhead at some point, it stopped moving. It just stopped. And then it continued moving. It stopped for a couple seconds. Satellites don't do that. They don't just stop. So I read this article and I thought, well, what if it was maybe not the X-37B specifically, but what if it was some sort of Space Force craft or some kind of experiment doing some kind of strange maneuver in orbit? That could very easily explain what I saw. This thing was flying around, or orbiting around, I should say, in 2020 when I saw it. Or when I had that sighting. So here's what Boeing said. The X-37B will perform groundbreaking maneuvers to take the dynamic spaceplane from one Earth orbit to another while conserving fuel. Partnered with the U.S. Space Force, this novel demonstration is the first of its kind. And I guess it's using the drag of Earth's atmosphere to change orbits, and it's using that to expend as little fuel as possible. There's 2 X-37Bs, and they've flown 6 complete missions, with 1 mission currently underway, the longest mission being 908 days. The first mission was in 2010, and they've been up there pretty much continuously since then. So there's not a whole lot to this one. It's nothing too crazy, but I just thought, well, if they're doing weird aero-braking maneuvers and changing orbits, then from the ground, even though it's not stopped moving, perhaps from the ground it could appear to momentarily pause as it changes orbit or something. Who knows? But I thought that was kind of a fun one. All right, that's all I got for that one. What do you got, Agent Ether?
I have another cryptid. It is kind of like an owl. It's called the ulama.
Ulama, okay.
Ulama. It is a frightening horned bird in Sri Lankan folklore. It's rarely seen, but it's often heard. It has a blood-curdling scream.
Oh, nice.
Its cries are said to resemble a wailing woman and are an omen of death.
Didn't you find a recording of this one?
I found a recording of a bird
Yeah.
in Sri Lanka that kind of sounded like a woman screaming, but it was so obvious to me that it was an animal. I'd never heard this before. And so they said, well, this devil bird isn't actually a cryptid. We can prove it. Here's a recording of an owl.
Uh-huh.
And I'm like, well, yeah, that's definitely an owl. It kind of sort of sounds like a screaming woman, I guess, if you like use your imagination, but nothing that would freak me out. Like if I was out in the wild and I heard that, I'd be like, that sounds like an animal.
Yeah, but acoustics can be really weird. And if you're out there and you hear it echoing around, it could probably be pretty unnerving, especially if you hear it at night.
Well, for centuries, the nocturnal cries of the devil bird were the only evidence of its existence, and Western science wrote it off as superstition until they did find this owl in Sri Lanka. What is it called? I don't know if I wrote down what the owl itself that they thought it was actually called. Let's see. Spot-bellied eagle owl is the most compelling source of inspiration for this mysterious creature. In 2001, it was identified as a new species of owl, Bubo nipalensis, the largest of all owls in Sri Lanka. It has tufted horns and a characteristic screech. So there's some debate that still remains as to the true identity of this devil bird, whether or not it's an actual cryptid or this creature.
Yeah.
There's actually a legend of the ulama and where it comes from, and it's a little gruesome.
Okay, well, I'm ready.
Let's hear it.
Let's go.
A long time ago, once upon a time, there was a husband and wife, lovely couple, and they had a newborn son, but the husband thought that maybe the baby wasn't his. So one day while the mother was out, he kept thinking about it, and he's like, I know this kid isn't mine. And he made the baby into a curry.
Oh, no.
Yeah. And the mother was eating the curry because he made a special dinner for them and found a finger on her plate.
Wow.
So she became, grief-stricken and horrified, and she began to scream. And she fled her home wailing into the jungle's darkness, where she was transformed into the devil bird by the gods. And her screams still echo through the forest at night, and anyone who is unfortunate enough to hear her is cursed to fall to misfortune and death.
Well, that's not fair. Just be in the wrong place at the wrong time.
So locals say it actually is a very specific cry where it'll rise at first and then fall.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a scream, and it's a scream that kind of builds up and then falls. And when I was listening to this owl that they said was this actual cryptid, it just sounds like an owl screeching.
Right.
It does not sound like a rising and then a falling.
So it's possible that it's a different species.
I don't think it's a different species. It's a cryptid.
Yeah.
What you mean to say is it's possible it's a cryptid.
It's a real life cryptid.
Yeah, not an owl at all.
Yeah.
That's what I meant to say. So I also have a strange encounter, but Agent Red, do you have something else for us?
I want to hear about your encounter.
Okay, this isn't actually my encounter. This is from one of our listeners.
Ooh.
I've been asking listeners to write in, so you can go to our Facebook group page, which is All Things Strange, or you can email us and you can look at our,
Our link tree?
Link tree.
In the description.
Link tree in the description for that information.
To be fair, nobody ever emails me anything. I just get junk mail, so I almost never check it. So if you want to email us or if you want to contact us, the best place to do so is either through Facebook or through Discord. The Discord link is also on the link tree. If you sign up for our Discord server, that's free to join, and it's not super busy, but I'm on there, and if you put something on there, especially if you do like an @my name, then it'll go right to my phone and I'll get that message. So that's probably the best way to get into contact with us.
Yeah. So, and if you're interested in, giving us your strange encounter, just a personal experience, or commenting on the show, that is the way to do it. Always like hearing from our listeners. So here's one strange encounter. This is from El Paso, Texas in 1979. This was very descriptive, so I'm just going to read it word for word. I thought it was really well written. All right, so here we are. There was no rain and no lightning that night, although the weather could be funny there in the desert, because in El Paso, that's pure desert right there on the border between Texas and Mexico. It was also about 2 stories up, eye level with my apartment balcony where I was standing and about a courtyard distance away. It was round and ridiculously huge, about the size of a basketball if it had been right there in my hand. So imagine how big it was from that distance. So here I think they mean their perspective. In the distance, it's the size of a basketball.
Yeah, like the angular size.
Yeah, the angular size.
That's big.
It wasn't solid, though. It was very much reminding me of a tumbleweed. Even on its edges, it spun like a tumbleweed as it traveled almost perfectly horizontally across from right to left at a distance of about 8 small apartments. It made no sound that I heard. It slowly traveled like this, spinning as it went, for about 10 to 20 seconds, and then it was gone.
Weird.
Very weird. So it's a spherical lightning ball about the size of a basketball, a courtyard distance away, that's traveling horizontally for 10 to 12 seconds before it disappears in the deep desert.
I mean, that's spot on with other ball lightning sightings that I've read about.
You think it was ball lightning?
Well, it's pretty similar to other, I mean, not exactly, like the spinning tumbleweed-like thing is sort of different than what I've read about before, but it sounds an awful lot like accounts of ball lightning that I've read about.
What do you think, Agent Red?
It sounds like ball lightning. The only time I've ever seen a depiction of ball lightning was over a train track, and it was debunked. But I would imagine it would look very similar to what your listener is describing.
Oh, I know what the video is that you're talking about. Yeah. Mm-hmm. That one there's stuff in the video that make it pretty obviously fake. It's just a video effect, unfortunately.
I don't think ball lightning's ever been recorded, right?
It has. It was recorded, I think by Chinese scientists, caught it in the wild by accident when they were recording a lightning storm. You can Google it. It's out there. The video's not super spectacular, but they were using like some kind of special camera that caught like the spectrums or whatever, so they were able to get some actual hard data on it. It was pretty cool stuff. Although
let me look.
The video's not.
Oh, but it looks so big. It doesn't look like a tumbleweed at all.
No, and there have been ball lightning accounts of all sizes, everything from pea size on up to, the size of like maybe 10, 15 feet across.
Yeah.
So I've seen, many different various descriptions of, this phenomenon.
What a sight to see, though. So few people in their lifetimes get to see anything spectacular.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I don't know, though. Maybe not something like this. Ball lightning is extremely rare, but I think most people see something strange.
I've seen something pretty strange.
Oh, really? Tell us about it. I want to hear.
So when I was at summer camp back in, middle school, we had a camp up in Malibu, and I wasn't the only one who saw it. There was at least 20 or 30 of us that were outside that night. We were doing one of those, everybody sit around in a circle and sing and everything. And a couple of us were looking up at the sky, and literally all of a sudden there's like this blue-green light that starts going across the sky. And it didn't look like anything I'd ever seen before. And it left a glow behind it. So it almost looked like this eerie, like neon glowy light that moved from the right to the left. And even as it went, it left light in the sky, and nobody could figure out what it was. It moved fairly slowly. And I know that most people say that, encounters of whatever it is, quick or goes in odd directions. But this was just very apparent to all of us that it was something that shouldn't be there. And I've looked up years and years after that, pictures of meteors and pictures of comets, and it didn't look anything like that. It was almost like an artificial, like neon light moving across the sky.
Weird. It could be a rocket launch because...
In Malibu, though?
Well, it could be seen from Malibu, maybe. You'd have to look at where they're launching rockets, but they have bases around there, military bases not too far from there. But a rocket can launch and leave a luminescent gas behind it. It is possible. I'm not saying that was the case in this scenario, but that's one possible solution.
But wouldn't that move from bottom to top instead of from right to left?
Not necessarily if it was launched in a trajectory that traveled overhead.
That's fair. That's fair. You never know. I mean, it could be a rocket, but like my sister, I don't know. Malibu, like, I don't know. It's something that still stays with me to this day.
Yeah. That's definitely weird. That's a pretty cool sighting. I haven't seen anything like that.
Yeah.
All right. I guess I'll go next here. This is another strange news article. So I've talked about this on the bonus episodes a couple times before, and we have a third incident here that I saw recently. The headline reads, "Man banned from United Airlines after reportedly urinating on fellow business class passenger," from people.com. Yes, another airline pee incident. I've spoken about it before. So Jerome Gutierrez was asleep on a flight from SFO to Manila in the Philippines when he woke to a man who's not named in the article peeing on him. The man was arrested when they landed. So that's all there is.
The end.
The end. That's all. Well, there's a little bit more to it, but I mean, that's pretty much the story. Just imagine you're taking a nap on a very long flight, and that's how you wake up. Just awful. Just awful.
I'm sure if I found someone peeing on me from a deep, dark sleep, there would be more to that story.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Well, and Jerome said that when he woke up, at first he thought he was dreaming because it was such a bizarre circumstance, but then he very quickly woke up. And then the peer begged for forgiveness when they landed. But how do you pee on somebody on an airplane?
Oh, you gotta be high out of your mind.
Yeah.
That is the only thing I can think of.
Maybe he was smuggling drugs and the condom burst or something. I don't know.
That is a different kind of Mile High Club.
Yeah, exactly. Pretty weird stuff. All right. Agent Ether, you got more for us?
I have a great cheese heist.
Oh, yeah. I wanted to hear about this one.
Not great, but GRATE.
Yeah, great.
The Great Cheese Heist. I stole that. That's from Canada's Public Broadcasting News Service. Definitely strange news. So, unfortunately, Neal's Yards Dairy posted a statement on October 22nd, 2024, saying it was, quote, the victim of a sophisticated fraud, unquote, after 250 wheels of cheese weighing 22 tons were stolen by a con artist posing as a retailer for a French wholesale distributor. And the company, the dairy, only realized the fraud after the cheese had been delivered.
Oh, dang.
The fraud was deeply convincing. In fact, they said it was deceptively convincing. And the product was not recovered, even though an arrest actually was recently made. And a spokesperson said, "We suspect the cheese to be the target due to its high resale value on," drumroll please,
eBay.
"the black market."
There's a black cheese market. Okay.
Black market for cheese.
Black market for cheese.
Shouldn't it be a blue market?
Bum. So you don't steal all this cheese unless you know who you're going to sell it to. So you're talking about organized crime.
Right, for sure. Yeah.
And organized crime is branching out. They're finding new markets. And one of the markets they're finding is cheese. So according to Statistics Canada, the monthly average retail price of 500 grams of cheese in Canada has gone up from $5.92, I think that's in Canadian dollars, in September 2019 to $6.86 in September 2024, which is a 16% price increase. Does not seem like a lot, right?
Right.
But prices get a lot steeper as the cheeses get fancier. So, for example, at Loblaws, 280 grams of Baltzen Old Cheddar costs $10.49. But if you want...
Wait. At Bloblaws?
Loblaws.
Oh,
Loblaws.
Okay, they said blah, blah.
What blah, kind of, blah, 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 blah.
What kind of a place is that?
And if you want some Bothwell smoked Gouda, it will cost you $17.27 for 540 grams. So you get the idea. A little bit of cheese is actually worth a lot of money. So you can imagine tons and tons of cheese is worth $400,000.
Wow. Tons
Yeah.
and tons of money.
Tons and tons of money.
Yeah.
So the cheese industry in general is experiencing this huge upswing, and researchandmarkets.com says the market itself will be worth $5 billion by 2028.
Wow.
I got to invest in cheese.
I know, right? Buy a couple wheels, stick them in your garage, let them age.
And cheese and butter are actually common targets for thieves because it's easy to repurpose, right?
Right.
You melt it, it's gone. You can't, it's not like other commodities or art. Like you sell it, it is gone. There is no tracing that cheese.
Right.
The annual global cost of illicit trade and fraud in the food sector is estimated to be 30 billion to 50 billion US dollars, according to a report by the World Trade Organization.
Wow.
And cheese is the most stolen product in the UK and Europe. In 2022, thieves stole 161 wheels of cheese worth about 32,000 Canadian dollars from a Dutch cheese farmer, according to the New York Times. Dairy farmers in Netherlands are targeted, and of course in the US and places like Wisconsin. The retail price of cheddar increased by 6.5% up to May 2024. And so now they have to security tag large blocks of cheddar in supermarkets in Canada.
Wow.
Just like we would do with retail goods like, I don't know, razors or condoms or all the many things that are behind glass now here in our supermarkets, they have to do for cheese. Based on price alone, cheese is one of the most desirable foods a criminal can steal.
Yeah, I guess it's hard to trace. It's small and compact, and it's valuable. I mean, it makes sense, I guess. I'm trying to picture these pitch meetings, right?
When
the
you're
mafia.
a criminal.
Yeah, they're like, okay, they busted our drug smuggling ring. What do we do next? We go, okay, maple syrup? Like, no.
That's been done.
That's been done. They're doing that. Oh, open a casino. No, that's all gone corporate. Can't do casinos anymore. Cheese. Who let him in? Who let him into the meeting? Get the F out of here, cheese, But wait, I don't know. How do they come up with this stuff? It's crazy.
Wow.
There's some smart people in crime. If only they applied themselves to the greater good.
Yeah, if only they did things, made money without hurting others, then they could be just as rich, if not richer, and contribute positively, I guess.
Well, because Deal's Yards Dairy has to eat that cost.
Right.
They've already paid.
No pun intended.
They just lose that money, though.
Yeah, and that comes from somewhere that, it doesn't all go into the owner's pocket, right?
Yeah, well, in addition to that, if you think about it, they were supposed to distribute this cheese into the wider market.
Right.
So now there's a shortage of cheese, which probably creates another, inflation of the price.
Yeah. But I mean, they're going to have employees, they're going to have various assets. I mean, that money has to come from somewhere. So that they may have to take a loan to finance future operations. They may have to sell off some things that they need. It's not like a victimless crime, right?
Yeah, exactly.
It's kind of what I was trying to get at earlier. That's a pretty wild heist. Reminds me of the maple syrup heist.
It reminded me too. And it was in Canada.
Yeah. Well, I guess they love stealing food in Canada.
I don't know. Maple syrup, cheese, who knows what's next?
Yeah. Although, the maple syrup heist one, that was wild. It blew me away that there's a black market for maple syrup.
Agent Red, weren't you telling me there was a TV show for the maple syrup heist? Somebody was telling me they have a drama. Wasn't you?
There's like a drama, like a TV show based on the maple syrup heist?
Yeah.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah, but I heard it's like dramatized.
That's awesome.
Around the characters and stuff.
That.
Well, I saw a show, I think it was on Netflix, where they had a documentary about the maple heist. And
no, this is not a documentary. It's a dramatization.
They interviewed some of the people involved, and they seem like real characters,
Wouldn't you have to be?
Yeah. Like they interviewed the guy who ran the cartel, the maple syrup cartel. That's a real thing. Yeah, go back and listen to our episode, and like, he's
That's a
saying,
good
"Oh,
episode.
we're just trying to improve prices for everybody," but of course,
Here we go. It is called The Sticky.
the sticky.
It is a Prime Video, Amazon Prime Video,
All right.
dramedy,
Okay.
comedy drama series about the maple syrup heist in Quebec, Canada, based on a true story.
Tabernacle. That's hilarious.
The Sticky.
We'll have to check that out sometime.
Definitely.
That's awesome. All right, is
That's
that what you
amazing.
got on the cheese heist?
That's what I got.
All right, back to you, Agent Red. You got anything else?
I've got one more cryptid for you for those
all right.
Wicked fans out there. So if you're anything like me, those flying monkeys freak you out. But there is actually a cryptid in Indonesia called the ahul, which is basically a giant ape bat flying like creature with a wingspan of up to 28 feet that makes this god awful sound. And it sounds like a really cool and also terrifying creature. It hunts at night, and apparently it likes to eat intelligent creatures. So some of you are safe.
Yeah, I know I am.
Oh, ouch. What are you trying to say?
I said some, I didn't say you. But apparently it bullies other creatures into giving it food and treasure. But if food is scarce, it'll eat just about anything.
Oh,
All right, let's finish off with the last one we've got for you, The Dark Watchers of California. I'm pretty sure I did this. Well, I know I did this one before on some sort of episode, but it was requested by Anorex High on Discord. And as I've said before, if you guys request something, I'll do it. So why not? This time I'm using Weird California as my source. Your Travel Guide to California's Local Legends and Best Kept Secrets by Greg Bishop, George Osterl, and Mike Marinacci. This is part of the Weird US series of paranormal travel guides, and it's associated with the Weird New Jersey website. You can go there on their website to buy these books. This particular one, Weird California, appears to be out of print, but you can find used copies on Amazon or eBay or wherever. They're out there. You can find them. So it's really cool. The book goes over lots of weird things, local folklore, interesting sites, cryptids, anything and everything about that area of the world that's weird. It's in there. And the Dark Watchers are also in there. There's just one page. There's not a ton on there, but since we already did this one, I didn't want to spend too much time on it anyways. But yeah, go check that out. There might be a book for your neck of the woods. I know I got Agent Grandpa one for Arizona for Christmas. He thought it was a lot of fun. But all right, so let's see. The Dark Watchers. They're seen from Monterey to San Luis Obispo. People have witnessed dark phantoms standing on the ridges of the Santa Lucias Mountains, silently watching. Stories of the Watchers date back to the Chumsa Indians. Nobody knows what they are, who they are, or what they want. They just stand there silently looking at you. John Steinbeck and Robin Jeffers wrote about the Watchers in their works of fiction and poetry, respectively. There is a story in the book about a high school principal who was on a hunting trip when he saw one of the Watchers, a dark figure wearing a hat and a long cape. It was standing on a rock across the canyon. The principal called out to his party, and the Watcher suddenly vanished. And that's more or less the Dark Watchers in a nutshell. People go hiking up in those mountains, and they report them fairly regularly. If you go Google it, go on Reddit, or go whatever, you'll find plenty of stories where people reported seeing the Dark Watchers. It's really cool. I've never seen them myself, but I haven't gone hiking in those mountains. But they're not that far from us either. What, like a 2-hour drive, probably? Something like that. Maybe we should go look for Dark Watchers sometime.
You do that.
No Dark Watcher for you?
Yeah, a little creepy for me. Bordering on the little creepy.
Yeah, it is kind of creepy. That's true. All right. Well, actually, we have a couple more minutes. I try to get like an hour if possible. Not a big deal.
I have a news story.
You have? Okay, go for it.
Cheese factory actually exploded in France.
What?
debris is everywhere.
Oh, no. That's not a real story.
But it was funny. I love dad jokes, actually, and it's terrible. It really is a terrible thing, and I need help.
Yeah, she's addicted to puns. She'll send them to me constantly.
They're so funny. I amuse myself.
All right. Any final things to end up, Agent Red?
I don't have anything else for y'all tonight.
All right. And then I guess I have one more that I took notes on here. The 2024 Skrelly Awards for Worst Healthcare Profiteering from commondreams.org. But this is just the outlet that's reporting on it. It's actually a different organization that gives out the awards. I guess this is the 8th year of the awards, and it's given out by a Massachusetts think tank. Now, if you remember, Martin Shkreli was that pharmaceutical guy. They sometimes refer to him as a farmer bro who bought up, I think it was insulin, bought up a bunch of insulin manufacturers and then jacked up the price through the roof. And that really hurt a lot of people. It was not just raising the price on like DVDs or beer or something that you don't really need, but it's fun to have. No, this is something that's necessary for people to live on. They need it to live. And he jacked up the prices to points where people had to ration their insulin. People died from this. So, they named the award after that guy who's now in jail. At least he was convicted. I don't know if he's still in jail, but he was at one point. Anyways, we got a list of 10 winners here. Number 10, University of North Texas Health Science Center for dissecting and distributing unclaimed bodies without properly seeking consent from the deceased or their families. So they're selling body parts.
Oof.
I know that's where the list starts. It only gets worse from here. Baby tongue tie cutting procedure. I guess they are now recommending cutting I guess a lot of people have their tongue is tied a little bit at the bottom. They're recommending a surgery to sever that tie, and they're selling it as a cure for lots of different things like scoliosis, sleep apnea, constipation, and even more things than that. Even though there is zero evidence to support that it's effective. I mean, yeah, how is that going to fix scoliosis? That's ridiculous. It's the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
Fix constipation?
I know, it doesn't make any sense. But they're selling this to parents, and probably if you're in the hospital and the doctor says you should do this for your baby, it'll help their health, people will probably do it. And they're spending money on a procedure that not only doesn't actually help at all, but is probably harmful, because every time you do a procedure, particularly on a newborn baby, you're introducing another chance for an infection. So they're hurting people with this and costing money to people who may not have the money to spend on it. All right, number 8, Zynex's medical billing procedures practice for its nerve stimulation devices for pain management. That's all it said. I don't know what that one's all about, but I guess they have really bad billing practices. They're probably ripping people off. I don't know. Number 7, winner is Cigna. Cigna is one of these really big healthcare companies. They billed a family $100,000 for an infant's medevac flight. So yay, Cigna. Good for you, making a lot of money on those dying infants. Number 6, coming in at number 6, we have 7 suppliers that allegedly ran a multi-billion-dollar catheter billing scheme affecting hundreds of thousands of Medicare patients. So good for them. Catheters, I guess. Hey, cheese, catheters, why not? If you can make a buck, I guess you're going to do it. Number 5, coming in at number 5, is Memorial Medical Center in Las Cruces, New Mexico, who refused cancer treatment to patients or demanded upfront payments, even for those with insurance. So that's kind of shady, but that one kind of sounds like business as usual to me. These days, I mean, that's just kind of how it goes, right? You could be in the ER with a leg chopped off, bleeding to death, and they would get your information before they treated you. That's just how it goes. All right, number 4, coming in at number 4, the winner is Montaba oncologist Dr. Thomas C. Weiner. I love that name. That sounds like a made-up name, Thomas C. Weiner, but that's not. That's his real name, apparently. For allegedly subjecting a patient to unnecessary cancer treatments for over a decade, and, quote, provided disturbingly high doses of barbiturates to facilitate death in seriously ill patients when those patients may not have actually been close to death, and prescribed high doses of opioids to patients that did not need them. But I bet he made a lot of money in the process, though. All right, number 3, Amgen, who's a big pharmaceutical company, for pushing 960 milligram doses of its toxic cancer drug, Lumacris, when a lower 240 milligram dose offers similar efficacy with reduced toxicity, but the lower dose costs $180,000 less per patient. So go Amgen, got to make that money, I guess. And the runner-up for the number 1 award is United Health for allegedly exploiting its vast physician network to maximize profits, often at the expense of patients and clinicians, including pressuring doctors to reduce time with patients and to practice aggressive medical coding tactics that make patients seem as sick as possible in order to earn high reimbursements from the federal government. And the winner this year of the Martin Shkreli Award is the CEO of Steward Healthcare, Dr. Ralph De La Torre, who allegedly orchestrated a healthcare debacle by prioritizing profits over patients' care amid debt and sale-leaseback schemes. This led to a bankruptcy that left hospitals gutted, employees laid off, and communities underserved. He supposedly gained $250 million over 4 years, basically by sucking money from these hospitals to the point where they had to declare bankruptcy, allegedly. All right, well, the healthcare industry is sick.
There's
a pun for you.
It's all about America.
Yeah, America. Well, not everybody in the healthcare industry is bad, but these people are bad. And I don't know, reading through this, I'm kind of like, yeah, that's just kind of how it is these days.
Yeah, none of this surprised me is the thing.
Yeah, that's the sad thing. It's just business as usual, what you can expect. All right, well, on that happy note.
Yeah, great lighthearted way to end the show, Agent.
Yeah, that'll be nice. All right, well, on that note, thank you guys all for listening, and until next time,
keep it strange.